Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here's a quote just for this episode. If you want something new, you have to stop doing something old. Peter Rucker, our guest today, friend of the Culture Matters podcast, originally on episode of season 27, 313, but way back, long before there was even a Culture Matters podcast. Our guest, I consider a friend, a supporter of Culture Matters. Met many years ago at, I believe it was the Jumpstart Startup, some
It was
speech that
Jumpstart.
I
Yes. Yep.
gave, sweating profusely. I'm sure that I was, and they have supported me and believed, and for many years now have been advising and mentoring business owners, having participated in exits and business success. Our guest today, the one and only Matt McHale. Thanks for coming back on the Culture
Absolutely.
Matters podcast, brother.
My pleasure as always, Jay. Always nice to see you and catch up with you. Obviously, we do it outside of podcasts, but this is even better so we can share some of our conversations with the world.
What do you think about that quote? Because I was thinking about you when I was looking for it. Um, if you wanted something new, you have to stop doing something old.
Yeah. So I think from a couple standpoints, if you look at that, so one from a time standpoint, if you want something new, if you want to add something to what you're doing now and add something to your calendar and add something to your most precious and a lot of times your most limited resource, your time, you have to give other things up in order to do that. So, but also from a mindset standpoint, if you want to do something new, you have to change the mindset. You have to change the old. You have to change the way you looked at things in the past in order to do that new thing, in order to continue that growth or that path or whatever it is that you're on. The limiting beliefs is a big issue for most people. Not believing that they could do something or believing they have the abilities or the time to do things, and they do. So I think you're both physically and mentally have to give something up in order to do something new that you want to do, and hopefully that new thing is to grow and to do something that's more intentional and where you want to go within your life or your business.
When it comes to a lot of the business owners you're coming across, what are some of the things you think they're having to give up in this new age to get to the next level? There's got to be either patterns of behavior or
Yeah.
tools and technologies and things that are just absolutely of the past.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing first is the patterns and behaviors, and it's just well, this is the way we do things, and the old story of the mother making the turkey at Thanksgiving and cutting the turkey in half before she puts it in the oven, and the daughter says, "Mom, why do you cut the turkey in half?" And she's like, "You know what? I don't know. I just always done that. Go ask your grandmother." So she goes to her grandmother. I said, "Grandma, why do we cut the turkey in half when we're cooking it?" And she's like, "You know what? I don't know that my mother did it that way. Go ask your great grandmother." And she gets the great grandmother and she says, "Oh, I had to cut the turkey in half because my oven was too small to be able to fit a full turkey in it." And that's one of those things with business and everything else. We continue to do things because that's the way we did it. That's the way I learned, or that's the way it's taught. And I think for people specifically in business, specifically right now with things are going on within the world of AI with the way tools are working, with the way the economy is, all those things, you have to take a serious look at the way you've been doing things and how you're not only you do it personally, your team does it, all those things, and figure that out. So I think that's the biggest part of kind of what they have to really look at and kind of give up that not always the old way is not always the best way, and figure those things out and continuing to look and refresh how you
Mm.
and refresh your process. I think that's one of the things why I love your podcast and love, what
Oh,
you do with
thanks.
it, bringing leaders on air. I was able to watch you earlier today on the Brian Hess show, and I think Brian's done a phenomenal job of doing his show on the regular and getting out there and talking about these things. So those are the kind of things when where do you spend your time? Where do you focus on? And being able to learn and being able to get ideas from new people to help you refresh and help you let go of the things that aren't working is a big part of your process.
Hmm. We're recording this all right on the cusp of Q4.
Yep.
What would you say? Kierkegaard said, life can only be understood backwards, but must be lived forwards.
Yeah.
Q1, Q2, what were some of the lessons of, the various customers and businesses you're around, without naming names, but, or like general wisdom that you'd say we can draw on from Q1, Q2, being that we're moving into Q4?
Yeah. So it's funny because I am a 90-day guy. I do love the 90-day windows and looking at that and saying, hey, here, what can we do in these 90 days? Because people always underestimate what they can do in that time, but overestimate what they can do in certain time frames too. So the
Yeah.
90 is a great window, so because you're not going to, most times you're not going to overestimate. You're like, oh my gosh, not, when you really sit down and look at it, 90 days is nothing, but you can break it down into that. And especially if you start to look at, in your career or in your life or anything, like how many 90-day windows do you have to do these things and laying out those, people talk about a 3 to 5 year plan. It's when I was on a panel this week about AI, and people are like, well, "Where do you see AI in 3 to 5 years?" I said, "I'd rather answer that in 3 to 5 months if I could, because in 5 years I could be up here talking." So now take your personal AI robot and have that robot do all your personal tasks. Then you can get so we the way AI is
Wow.
moving and so quickly progressing. Trying to talk about 3 to 5 years from now is impossible. Even if it's a Sam Altman or somebody who's a on the cusp and leading the charge of it, even they would have trouble to really dictate where that's going to be. But so if we look at that 90-day window, it's a great way. Now, an issue you could have too is people, especially when you said like we're going into Q4, people have this mindset of how the quarter should work. Well, now Q3 we're coming out of the summer and we can do more stuff now. But Q4 we're gonna get in the holidays and you don't do business as much then. That's all BS. That's all. Go back to that limited belief. Like that's not true. There's always business being done. There's always new business happening. There's always sales being done. The people who think that this time frame, even like the day before, a big holiday, there's business being done. There's new deals being had. All these things are happening. So you have to get rid of that when you get into these, these Q1, Q2, Q3, 4. But I love it from a 90-day window planning. Really look at this and see what we're going to do here and how does that tie into that longer plan of success and what you're trying to accomplish.
Mm. What do you think about Q1 starting in Q3?
I love
Or
that.
the fruit of Q1 starting
Right,
in,
right. So I do like that. So one, we have New Year's Day, and everybody January 1st, man. Jay, I'm gonna go to the gym. This is it. I'm gonna start going to the gym every day. You know of anybody how much the gyms get so populated and everything else. And I don't know, what is it like January 21st where most people give up their resolutions by that day, whatever it is. So
yeah.
so I do love that you have that, man, I'm gonna start Monday, and have that, but again, you fall into that trap of why? Why aren't you starting right now? Why aren't we starting right now? What is it? 2 o'clock on a Friday, rather than starting Monday or starting whenever. Start right now.
Yeah,
Doing
are we done working after this?
no, absolutely not. Yeah. So we got stuff tomorrow. We got stuff the next day.
Feel
And
like, yeah, is
that's
my
the whole
work day
thing.
over after
It's
this podcast?
right, right.
Because it's Friday or something. Yeah,
Yeah, that's Friday.
it's
Let's kick
over.
off and do the happy hour, whatever it is. And sure, you have those times when you're going to go out and you're going to do that, but people, again, you fall into those traps of, hey, this is, I'll do it then, or put, like stop putting things off. Even just doing a little bit. You said, you know what, I gotta find new business right now. So Monday, no, start right now. Reach out to a few people, or put something together, or work on the email. Whatever it is that those things have to get done, do something right now and do something every single day. I'm a Christian, so I do like the Sunday to be a day of rest for the most part, but I'll still do some stuff on Sundays. That's when I set up my week. That's when I lay out, like, this is how, these are things I'm going to get done this week. That's when when I do all those things. So you can still spend your time and have those things that you're setting up and have those habits that you're doing. But yeah, don't wait, and yeah, so you can start using Q4 to set up a fantastic Q1 and set up 2025, because where you're at right now is the results of what you did 60 days ago or 90 days ago. So you can't, you can't just change and say, just like, again, going to the gym. You can't be like, oh, I got to lose 20 pounds. You're not going to do it next week. But if you start doing it now, 60, 90 days from now, you're going to start seeing those results. It's the same with anything, so
Mhm.
you are right now where you at because of the actions and what you did 60 and 90 days ago. So knowing that, start right now to build towards where you want to be in 90 days from now.
What do you think about this? I intentionally, the record for the Culture Matters podcast recordings was New Year's Eve 2020. Well, I guess that's 2023, right? Because 2024 is the next day.
Yes.
Yeah, just make
Yep.
sure I got that right. All right. We're recording, right? Okay.
Right.
So it was intentional. The most shows that were ever recorded in one day was between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. on New Year's Eve of last year. And each episode was with a different guest, that's been on the show quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
that was willing to participate.
Right.
And the conversation, the theme was around how we're doing this on New Year's Eve. And,
Right.
when is this going to go out in 6 months? And people are
Right.
listening.
Right.
So I did that because I want your feedback on this. Like, any thoughts? And number one, I want, there was this psychological element for me, like, this is New Year's Eve. I want to have the record of how hard I've pushed myself with this show in a time where most people are doing something traditional, like putting a turkey in an oven,
Right.
half a turkey or whatever.
Right.
And I did that to give myself an edge, like an anchor in a
Yep.
sense.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
I love that, and those are those kind of things that build your belief level, that build your work ethic, that build your mindset to look back and say, here's something I didn't, never even thought about doing. Not only was I able to do it, but it went really well, because you were intentional with that, and you're looking back at that. So if you look at those things and those times when we're like, yeah, you know what, this is that week between Christmas and New Year's, for a lot of people, it's a lost week. It's something that's kind of there. And again, great to take it and renew and spend time with family, and just kind of get a better mindset for starting the year. I love all that.
But is it, if we haven't done the work all year? That's my question.
Right. And that's yeah, that's
Sorry if I interrupt. I was
no, that's fine.
Is that where you were going? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, no, you went a little further and said to work all year, but I would even say, have a plan to go into that week of how you're going to be productive. If you just took an hour every day, obviously you took a lot more than that day. And I think it was a great plan too, because you reach out to people, a lot of people are like, yeah, I have that time that day. I don't have anything planned. So
What are you doing on New Year's Eve in 2024?
right.
No, you.
So what am I doing? Oh man,
I'd be
you want to do
honored.
it?
Yeah.
You want to do it again this year? I'm absolutely do it. Yeah. So you know what you should do? You should go live.
See, now that's a good idea.
You can record all of them to have them as individual, but you go live and do a marathon and just keep bringing
Yeah,
new people
see, this is
in.
why we do this podcast.
Doing
And
that.
it's
Yep.
good. This is recorded. That we have not discussed this before this recording. So everybody, this
Right.
makes me all right. I have another question for you.
Yeah.
The power of the mastermind over your tenure in business. What do you think?
I think that was a great example right there, where you have something, you have a thought, you have like, I'm thinking about doing this. And I was like, dude, you should do that live this year. You know, like Trump last year, do it, and not not Donald Trump. I mean, just Trump. Do it
That's good.
do it better than last year. And doing it live. So again, you're going to record it, you're going to have it all there, but doing that live and putting that out there, and do it. Like I would use like a StreamYard for that. So then you could be interacting with people as they're coming in and watching it and doing all those things. Even something like that, you could attach a charity to it, or something along those lines to make it more exciting. But that's the mastermind there. That's when you have an idea, you have this thought, and you can only see so far. You can only, I'm looking out my window right now, and there's all these trees and everything blocking. I can't see beyond those, but you walk there all the time, Jay. So you're like, oh yeah, right behind this tree, you got this, that, and the other, and you could do this, or you could, so one, someone's already been there, so that mastermind part of it is there. Or again, you just take that idea, and they're like, oh, what if you did this too? And you just start to build on that. So having a true good mastermind group is huge. Again, like most terms, people have kind of misused and abused it,
Yeah.
where they're like mastermind, and it's really they're just doing something where they can get people make money from it. And it's not a true mastermind. It's not really. A mastermind should have people, like-minded people have that experience, or have those things. Or if you're going to have someone who's maybe a little more experienced, a little more knowledgeable, they should know that. You're coming in as you're the subject matter expert. You're going to be the seasoned pro, and we're going to have other people. And that doesn't mean the seasoned pro can't learn from somebody who's even still in school right now, or even some of that. My daughter's down in college, and she's introduced me to some of her friends, and the one guy, like, super smart guy, and has had his own business since he's been like 13 years old, and does development, software development, and everything. Learn a ton from him, and we just really hit it off, and we talk. So doesn't mean you can't, even though I have a lot more experience in those things, doesn't mean you can't learn from everything. But just if you're doing a mastermind group, just explain that to people, and let them know what their role is.
Have you ever heard of Junto? The Junto?
Yes, I have. I'm not super familiar with it, but I have heard of it. Yes.
It's Ben Franklin's first group,
Yes.
1727. Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
mutual
I
friend.
believe I believe you told me about that. That's probably where I've heard of them before. Is when
Yeah,
we're
the
talking.
next time when I'm in Philly, I do these pop-up Juntos, and you got to come.
Absolutely. I'd love to.
Now, behind you, for those that can't see, if they're watching on YouTube, you have a whole bunch of books.
I
Do you
do.
have a book that you'd recommend for 2024? Like,
Um,
would you say it was one that people may not
that
uh
came out in
no,
2024.
like no, that resonated with you, or one that's like you'd say, this is the book of 2024 that you would say
Uh,
someone listening should read this book before, they
yeah.
move on to 2025.
Oh, what is the name of his book? Um, is it going for the no? I believe it is.
Is that Eric Ward?
Trying to no. Is G so his name is spelled GIA, first name GING, I believe, is the last name. And that's the author. And he did a whole blog, and wrote the book, and started doing this around I'm sorry, rejection proof. And then but then,
Oh,
the whole point was going for him, going for a no, but he kept getting yeses. So he thought he was going to go, and because he had to get rejected enough times.
oh
So
wow, that's a
I
great
just
book, Scotty.
oh, it's a great book, great book. And he did a whole blog around it and everything. So people start following his journey that way. But then he wrote rejection proof out of it. And he still has a newsletter, has things that he puts together around it. But really recommend that book. Yeah, that's one that is on the shelf behind me that I will go to a lot, because that is probably the biggest thing that people struggle with, and one of the biggest things to success is getting that rejection, but learning from it, understanding why it happened, and the things that can come out of it. So that's really what he goes into as well. But it is funny because he keeps he's trying to get the no and keeps getting yeses from people. He
Mm.
even like knocking on someone's door and said, "Oh, can I use your backyard to play hockey?" Or I forget exactly what it was. Guys like look at him. It was like, yeah, why not? He didn't think it was going to happen. So it's just simple things like
Why
that.
was he doing this? Why was he going through
Getting
all this pain?
because he wanted to go through because he knew he had to get through the rejection and to be able to get over it, to be able to say I need to do this, I need to go through this so I can become rejection proof, because that's what's holding me back to get the things I desire, to get on the other side of it, and to get success. So he went through and kept coming up with these tasks that made it harder and harder. He would go in and ask for like free donuts or something along those lines, and he got and that and each story becomes really more than just what he bargained for, more than just what he thought it would be, and then the things that came out of it, and the people that he was able to help, and trying to help himself, helping those other people. So really well written book, and just the story is great.
What do you think of this quote? Unless commitment is made, there are only promises and hopes, but no plans. Peter Drucker.
I love that. Yes. So funny thing is, earlier today, you were the second person this week to use the word abdication. Uh,
Wow.
and it's not and it's not a common word to
So
hear.
weird.
So and like I said, you were talking with Brian Hess. You guys can go see the Brian Hess show if you want to see Jay on there. But they had a little discussion around it, and Brian pulled up the definition. The first definition was the act of abdicating, which didn't really help, but you kind of went deep into it. The way I heard it earlier in the week, was abdication versus delegation. And where most people are not delegating correctly, they're abdicating. And and I see that a lot. And that quote, that second quote he's read me, kind of reminded me of that.
Wow.
That's one of those things where people think they're delegating things and they're more abdicating things, and then they get frustrated. And I see this a lot with CEOs, with people in leadership position. They'll get frustrated that they didn't get the level of success that they wanted, not realizing the role they played in it by abdicating when they should have been delegating, and spending, delegating and spending more time to make sure, if I say something to you like, "Hey Jay, go to the store and get me something," and I'm not making sure that you're clear on that, making sure we're understanding the goals. And you could go through the act of going to the store and getting something. It could be the wrong store. You could get the wrong thing. All these things that could go through, because in the delegation, I failed and set you up for losing in that, and didn't set you up for success.
What,
And I just abdicated and walked away.
what role do you think accessibility of subordinate to authority has?
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. I think that for that, and again, if you're dealing with a couple people, I think it's much easier. If you're dealing with hundreds or thousands of people, when you have to do that, that becomes harder. But all of those can have a process and a way to be able to do that. And if you don't have that, and you don't have that set up correctly, then as a leader, you are abdicating. You're not doing that because you don't know what's going on, and you don't know the things that are happening in that process, or getting feedback from it. So that becomes a big issue in that, and so having access to some level, especially now that we have the tools in there. A lot more companies use Slack. A lot more companies use different systems to be able to use that. It's kind of the next step beyond email. Email gets a little clunky. It's even still the best way of communication, but it's not the best way for access. It's not the best way to manage things. It's not the best thing to have a process around. So that's why you need to use, either a better tool or have a process to be able to do that. So I think, access and being able to get that feedback is huge. And I think a lot of leaders do drop the ball on that.
What do you see, or what's your view on the abdication occurring as a consequence of just people not knowing what to do?
I think in that case, that's more of an abdication by just giving up, of not, not following up and seeing, when people don't know what to do. So I'll give you a great example. At a event the other night, they were talking about AI, and a woman asked a question and said, "So I use ChatGPT for my company, and I have, she pays for it, and I have this, this set up for my team. Does that mean the data is private?" And because they had asked the questions, anyone using it, and anyone doing, and people raise their hand, and anybody want to talk about that? Are you sharing your company data? That was the follow-up question. No one raised their hand, and she finally said, "You know what? I am, but I have, with the system." So I was able to meet with her afterwards and kind of showed her some, like, let's make sure you go into settings, make sure you have this turned off, where they have the setting in there where it says, you use my information to help others. That means basically they're taking your information and using it in the large language model. And I had a really good conversation with her about that. But one of the things was I complimented her on asking that. She wasn't, because everybody else, okay, he even joked about it. He's like, "Oh, no one's raised their hand. I know you've done it." But they were all just kind of, at that point, abdicating, responsibility of, just saying, and she was brave enough to bring that up, and there was a
Huh.
good conversation for the group around that, because of that. So I think most times that kind of abdication is just because you don't know, you're giving up, and because people are afraid to ask, they don't want to look dumb, they don't want to look like something, But I got news for you: most people don't know. When you have a question to ask, most people probably have the same question to ask. So the one that's brave and get it out there, not only get it for yourself, but you can help a lot of other people in doing it.
It takes courage to respond to the unknown.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Because again, people are afraid to look stupid. They're thinking, "Oh, I should probably know this. I should probably, I'm kind of an expert, in that field. I say I do this, or that's my job. I should probably know this." And people let their ego
What
get
do you think?
to in the way.
What do you think about the CEO that wants to be the smartest person in the room?
That's dumb. Why would you want to be the smart person in the room? That's way too much responsibility. Um, no, and that's not their role, and that's not their job. And I think that's a lot of times, you don't want to be a CEO. Most people do not want to be CEO. Trust me. You may think you do. You don't want to be a CEO. It's not a fun job. It's not, it's doing it right and doing it, a company, it can be a lonely spot, most of the time, going through this. But you certainly don't need to be the smartest. One of the best movies is was around the financial crisis. Drawing a blank right now, but Jeremy Irons plays the CEO they had to bring in.
Oh,
Uh,
margin call.
Margin Call, thank you.
That's an awesome movie.
And so he sits down now. He's in the room now, and they're all sitting around, and you can tell they all have respect for him. And he's like, so he talks to the one analyst. He's like, "Explain to me like I'm a dog or a golden retriever. I'll tell you right now, I'm not here because I'm the smartest, and he just knows. He's like, I'm here because I know how to make these decisions. I'm not the smartest guy here. It's like, he's like even telling like, "Oh, you guys are smarter than me." That's why I assembled my team. That's why I put these things together. Everybody has their, the things that they can be smart in, that they can be the subject matter expert in. The CEO has to be able to be smart to make those decisions for the companies, to make decisions like that can affect, hundreds or thousands of people's lives, and go through all those things. You don't have to be the smartest, but you just have to have the team around you to get you that information, be able to make that. If you're the smartest, you can't make decisions the way CEO has to make decisions. You because you're going to be too tied up in trying to figure those things out, and too tied up in the analytics of it. And you
Mm.
freeze in making those decisions. CEOs have to make decisions, hard decisions, and make them quickly.
Yeah, what are some either, unknown to the general public, not talked about or thought about, variables of the CEO role, or like components of that? Because you mentioned the loneliness, job.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the first and foremost is, just being that leader, being the one who can, to make the decisions and can look and have that forethought to figure out those, the 10 next steps of that, playing the chess, being able to not, just look at the chessboard. If my role is, I'm the CMO, chief marketing officer, I'm just looking at those pieces from a marketing standpoint and putting those things out there and doing that. The CEO has to take all of that and understand all those pieces, understand all those moves, and figuring out what's going to be the next move. Where are things going? Where the environment that we're in, the economies that we're in, all those things, all these things play into that. And again, you don't always make the right decision. A lot of times you don't make the right decision, and being able to understand that, learn from that quickly, and being able to move that. So again, that's why people don't make decisions or figure those things out. They're afraid to make the wrong decision, and that's going to be just as bad, if not worse, than doing nothing is going to be just as bad, as not worse, making the wrong decision. Because if you don't, unless you make something catastrophic or something that make a dumb illegal decision, outside of that, you can make those decisions, learn from those, figure those things out, and then pivot and do the right thing. So all those things, lay down that CEO and being able to work with people, understand that, and work with those teams overall and figure all that out.
What do you think about this one? Leadership is not magnetic personality. That can just as well be a glib tongue. It is not making friends and influencing people. That is flattery. Leadership is lifting a person's vision to higher heights, the raising of a person's performance to a higher standard, the building of a personality beyond its normal limitations.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's start at the beginning, where you look at something like disc profile, and people are familiar with that, or any kind of personality profile, and who a CEO is versus other people. So the D and the I in DISC is, that's a dominant personality, or the I is that outgoing, that, the person who loves to, have a half-hour conversation or a 5-minute conversation suffices. So a lot of times you're going to look at that, and a CEO is going to be very high D and lower on the other scores. The reason for that is because they have to make decisions quickly and have to figure those things out, and do that in such a way where, they're not there to make friends. They're not, you certainly don't want to make people feel they're not appreciated, or being underutilized. But in talking to that, you just have to have that, I love the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. But again, that's not their job. You're not there to do that, especially if you're the CEO of a company. You're there, and you're making sure those tasks are getting done, but using that leadership to get the most out of people, to have them understand what they can do and how those things they can do. Again, that goes back to that abdication versus delegation. If you're not abdicating it, and you're involved, and you're making sure that you're putting the tools in place and you're putting the traps in place to set them up for success rather than failure, that's a big part of it. I'm a big fan of like servant leadership. Really understanding how that works, and making sure that the people that you're leading, you're doing from a servant mind, and figuring those things out, and making sure that you're helping them to accomplish these things, and not being that that traditional we see in the movies or something, boss, like, oh, what are you doing, and yelling at people, or just trying to use your power and influence over people. Rather use your power and influence to help those people to become better. And doing that, and it goes back to, don't be the smartest person in the room. You lift those people up, put those smarter people around you, and that just makes your job and your life so much easier.
Mm. What, what does servant leadership mean?
Servant leadership is just that, is serving the people that you're leading, is having that mentality of how can I help them to improve in their life, and their jobs and in their roles. of, what can I do to assist them and assist the company overall, and having that, instead of what most people, I won't say most people, a lot of people think a leader is, where it's just, this, oh, you call me Mr. Such and such. And, like, no, making sure that the people you're working with, and, making sure, what they're doing, what drives them, what motivates them. That's a huge part, like that people don't look at when they sit down to either interview people, or they're already working with people. What do you, what really drives you? Why are you here? And look, some people are just going to be there for the paycheck. And discovering that might help you sooner than later understand they're not the right people. Jim Collins, I got the right people, on the bus in the wrong seat, or what, they don't believe, they don't belong on the bus, and discovering that sooner than later, and figuring those things out, because someone's just there for a paycheck. They're going to jump when they get a better paycheck somewhere else. And maybe you can help discover that sooner, but if someone's
Mhm.
really there to, because they believe in the company, they believe in the mission and the statement, that's another big part of servant leadership, making sure that your company has a mission, making sure it has values, that not only that everybody's aware of, but that you're really, it's not just out there because it's a cool marketing thing. We put our mission statement out there, and we put our, but at the end of the day, I don't really care about it. I'm just here to, make sure we're making money. No, you want those things to align. You want to say, hey, listen, I see that a lot, with AI, and people are talking about, the ethical implications of using AI, and all these systems and all that. I don't believe in business ethics. I believe everyone has ethics, and you bring that, in your business life, in your personal life, everywhere else. There's not separate. These are my business ethics. These are my personal ethics over here. No, you have, who you are, and what makes you take what you believe in, and they should be consistent, around that. So that servant leader is going to make sure that everyone not only knows that, but he follows those more than anyone, making sure that you're true to the mission statement and true to that, and all those things can then help people do that, and help them when what drives them, what their goals are, making sure from a corporate standpoint they can do that, but then that helps them in their personal life as well.
What are some of the themes that you're hearing out when you're speaking it on these panels? Some anxieties.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Anxiety is a really good one. Confusion, anxiety. So when we talk about the sneeze, bless you there.
Oh,
Uh,
thanks.
when we talk about AI, and we talk about, where people are always like, one, is it going to take my job? Two, is it going to take over the world? Those are some of the first things when dealing with that, or talking about how you can use AI. Obviously being very, I don't want to, mess things up or get my data or anything like that. So, dealing with that, because they're all, it's fair that you have all those questions, everything around that. But the last panel I was on, I was very happy. So there was a professor from Penn State was on it, and then a gentleman from the company who's a chief revenue officer for that company, and we were all very upbeat on AI, very, very positive on AI. So I think that helped the group we were with, and explain it to them. Even the point where we're talking about, look, I'm like, listen, if AGI, that's when AI kind of becomes self-aware, and we see kind of made the joke. I'm like, listen, I'm not saying it's around the corner, but if my name is Sarah Connor, I'd start getting worried right now. So, but again, I think if it really get to that point, and I said, look, the systems we'd have to have in place, the amount of energy, the computer, if this had all the information of humankind, and was able to use it, and use it quickly and do that, the amount of energy and systems would be incredible. Like we're not even close to that right now. So, but let's just say we have system, and have all this, and does that have awareness? I think it's more likely that system, once it has all that information and that awareness, says, you know what? Yeah, you guys aren't ready for me. Check back in 100 years, and maybe I'll help you then. I think it's more like an AI says, you can't use me anymore right now. Go back to what you're doing before. You had this. And I'm talking generative AI. AI has been around for a while. We've been using AI for decades, but I'm talking more the generative AI, the things that can create images, create these videos, create and being able to think, create copy, all the things they can do now. If you really have that and it's really become self-aware and figures all these things out, like I can't help you guys yet. You're like children to me, and I'm too dangerous for you. So I think that's as most likely as anything else. So, but getting those things out there and helping people understand, look, it's not going to take your job. The other gentleman I spoke with said it was really good. He's like, think of it as a really strong intern. I think that's a good way to look at it right now. You're not going to trust an intern, to just come and say, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and you're just going to say, okay, go do it. But you're certainly, especially if you're a really strong intern and somebody who is, has studied and is, at the point now where you're like, hey, this is good. That's why you're bringing them in, for not only for them to learn, but also for you to learn from them. So I think that's a good way to look at it. Another thing is,
Mhm.
you can outsource work, you can outsource success. So, and I think a lot, that goes back to that abdication. You're not going to outsource success, but you can outsource work, you can outsource jobs, everything else that will lead towards that. AI is the same way. It's certainly going to replace where I put together, a one pager with a QR code and some other stuff. A couple of years ago, or even a year ago, well, my wife is a graphic artist, so I would just go to her. I was going to say, but I have to hire somebody and get them to do that for me. I wouldn't, I could do something, but it wouldn't look that good, and it would take me way too long, and it would be stupid for me to try to do it. But now I went into Canva, and it literally took me 3 minutes to throw together a nice one sheet with a QR code with the information on there, so people could scan that and be able to get the information I wanted to give out. So that's a job that I don't have to hire somebody. I don't have to pay somebody for, but that doesn't replace somebody when I want to get more
Oh,
complex things and start doing more.
oh, shoot. It's the abdication delegation conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even from a existential standpoint, have human beings ever actually been in the absence of AI?
Right.
How responsible have we yet to be? Or have we been up to this point in our evolution? Like, I'm thinking of the org chart of the human species.
Okay.
Are we a leader? If there's no subordinates under us in the dominance hierarchy,
Okay.
we don't have authority over someone else.
Right.
The artificial intelligence being a part of our daily life is going to change how we
Yeah.
how we how responsible we have, like, meaning, like, right, there's two types. If we're going to make it really like a binary, there's a
Right.
human being that's going to have the AI, and then they're looking at it's going to make them lazy, less human,
Yep.
less challenged, less courageous, less, because they're just, let's say it could do everything for them in theory.
Yep.
Then there's a human that it makes them like a superhuman. There's an
Kind of
integration
like,
between AI.
Limitless. When it was Bradley Cooper Limitless, when he was able
Yeah,
to
yeah,
drug, and all of a sudden, boom, it woke up all those
yeah. Like, do you think that's what
wasn't
the
using. Yes. Yeah, I definitely think there's a part of that and a level to that.
see?
Uh,
I'm excited about this artificial intelligence.
I think you should be. I think it's more upside than downside. Absolutely, there's no question about it.
Humans
Um,
suck.
there's like yes, and I said that,
We're
and I
so
said
limited.
we have met the enemy, and it is us. I'm more worried about the people and how they use it more than the system itself. More than the system becoming aware and doing all those things. It's the people and how they will use those things. So, and again, that goes back to
I
ethics.
think it's a little arrogant on our part because we keep saying the system, because I hear people saying this, it becoming aware. We're not even aware yet. In fact, we might not be able to become aware without it.
Right.
Like, self awareness is not finite. It's a spectrum, and
Right.
it's unreachable, or else we'd be gods.
If we were truly aware, there would be no limiting beliefs. There would be no you wouldn't have rejection proof. You wouldn't have all these things that we talked about because there's no reason for it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's omniscience. It's
right.
being all knowing and all. That's a god. It's a
Right.
god.
Right. Yep.
I think it's very arrogant that we keep even worrying about the self-awareness of the AI when in fact we're not self-aware.
I think arrogance is a really good descriptive for
Now,
that.
maybe the fear is that there's another species capable of eradicating, but not that doesn't necessarily mean it's aware. It's just competing for resources.
Right.
Now, what resources would it be? What that's a question I have for what resources would AI be competing for?
Well, it takes a
Why
lot of
why kill us? I mean, why
it takes a well, it takes a because it takes a lot of energy to run that. So that if you look at the Matrix, it was using the human bodies to create the energy it needed to continue to run. So I thought that that was always a
that's
good
what this
back
is
and look at
doing.
that. Right. Oh yes. You go back and look at that original movie. That was a great spin on like
Yeah,
the humans became batteries for the AI. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing and the biggest resource. That's why you look at companies like Nvidia and other companies that are doing so well, building the chips and building the back end of it versus the companies like OpenAI and Google and Anthropic who are building the front end, the large language models. That's the sexy part. They're getting a lot of it, but Nvidia is quietly making billions and billions of dollars, not so quietly now, but when it started because they're doing the back end because you
Why?
need
Yeah, what is going on
you
with
know,
that? I don't understand. What is
um,
NVIDIA doing? What is that?
Nvidia builds the chips, so they were in the gaming world, and that's and it's funny because you hear especially adults talk about gaming, and I compare the gaming world to like NASA. People will look back, well, no, so what? We went to the moon, in doing, going to the moon and doing the things that NASA did, they created things they needed that have helped, internet being one of them, that have helped, to build our economy and build our technology and everything that we have now. NVIDIA being in the gaming world, you would have these games, we were talking about a movie coming out and making all this money or this book or anything. The gamers would be like, huh, that's cute because you would have these games come out and make millions and millions and millions of dollars. But the other part was the systems that they need to game. So you not only need, the high speed internet, but you need a computer that can react and very quickly do these things because that's the difference between your character being able to turn and shoot another character or whatever it is in the game versus it's a little slower because I don't have the RAM, I don't have the the memory. So you have these gamers, learning to build their own computers and becoming better and better at it. NVIDIA built the back end for those, built those chips and built those things to be able to run that. Now that's the thing that's running these supercomputers that we need to have large language models, to set up these systems on AI. So they're one of there's a few companies out there, but they are the leader because of the gaming industry and because it was set up perfectly. They were right place, right time. Where all of a sudden you're like, man, we need a lot more of this because of that, and NVIDIA was the go-to.
That's fascinating. So
Yeah.
this is not a fad.
No, there's not a fad at all. So I talked a lot about dot coms and the dot com era and the dot com economy, even though we know a lot of them became dot bombs, that still drove, a lot of things, still to this day, drove a lot of companies. And you look at all the companies that came out of that, Amazon obviously being the most well known and what happened there. But I worked at wingspanbank.com, which was the first internet bank. Our biggest challenge was trying to figure out how people could deposit money because there was no PayPal, there was no any other way. We had to start cutting deals with then Mac machines in this area, which are now we all call them ATM machines, but we had to cut deals with them so people could set that up and be able to put their money in the Wingspan Bank. So but we went through all that and all the things, CD Now was in outside the Philadelphia area that was bought out by Amazon. And there was a lot of really big companies in this area. And I can, I talk about that all the time and all this things come out of that. That is nothing compared to where we're with AI. It won't even be close by the time things are said and done. What AI is going to do and how it's going to affect everything uh, is going to be way beyond what the .com era was able to do for the economy, this country, and
What
the world overall.
what relationship do you think AI will have this renaissance could have on the in the podcast world?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, right now. So, have you seen Notebook LM yet?
What's that?
Google. So that's a Google tool. So look up notebooklm.google.com, or just Google Notebook LM. It'll pop up. So what Notebook LM? So you have the large language models. You know, the Chat GPTs, the Claudes, the Geminis, and they're the ones that have all the data in there. And you go and you ask questions, and you have that interaction. Notebook LM is a notebook, language model. That's, they got the LM, where you're going in and you're creating. So if you go to my notebook LM, there's about 20 different little notebooks in there, different information around AI, around business, or all these things. The other day, I popped in the terms and conditions of ChatGPT, because that was one of the questions that woman had asked. So I quickly pulled that up, copied everything, put it in my notebook, and then afterwards showed her. So once you upload the data in there, so you can take a 100-page PDF, upload it in there, boom, it's got all, it takes all the information. Now it's ready to go, and it can give you an overview. Say this is what all this information is. So,
Wow.
show me the top 10 things most important. It'll give you that top 10 list. Say, explain to me like I'm a 5-year-old. That was a little creepy. I wouldn't do that, because it was like AI is your friend, and your friend AI. So I would say, explain it to me like I'm not, I'm dumb, or, explain it to me, make it simpler. But this, so Notebook LM can do that. Now, what they just came out with a few weeks ago, now there's a button. I can press the button, and within about 5 minutes or less, I have a 10 to 15-minute podcast of two AI voices that are good voices. They don't have the inflection, they don't have the emotion that you and I have talking right now. So you can tell they're AI voices, but they're good enough. I'll listen to it, and I have, and I'll do a podcast on that information. So
Wow,
if you
that's
have
cool.
companies that need training, companies that, new things are coming out, if you're in the financial industry, you're in the tax industry, whatever it is, I would start putting these together and send them out to my clients and say, hey, listen, take a listen to this when you get a chance. These are things you have to be aware of.
Wow.
Especially after the election, we're going to have this tax versus that tax, whatever it is. You can easily and quickly put those things together, send those out, and have that value add. And then obviously you're still the subject matter expert. They can come back with other questions. But that is such a great way to do that. So that's one way where, you have these podcasts that are coming up that are AI, that are, I'd say, if you have like a couple minutes of information, I would listen to it. Even the ones, I mean, these men might be 10 minutes. Interesting. I'm not going to listen to them any longer than that. You're not going to get into a long form podcast or a conversation with it, because it's going to lose you. Especially because AI voices and everything. But if you have something you want to do really quick, if I just want to say, I do weekly, I do the week in AI, and I talk about all the, the bigger things that happen in the world of AI. If I put that together and just did something like, here's a minute of the week in AI, and I just said that podcast, just condense this, and just put this out. Boom. Here's all the very, from a very high level, quick things you need to be aware of. So something like that, it would be very useful. So I think we'll see more and more podcasts, but I also think the ones like this, where it's actual real people, real experience, and have gone through things, will become more valuable, because it'll go to the point where, like, okay, it's almost like when you have, the younger generation that are like business coaches that have done nothing in business, haven't built a business, but they learn from this person, learn from this, learn from this person, and they're just regurgitating the information out there. At the end of the day, they're not really going to help you. You want to go to somebody who learned, from a class, or you want to go to Brian Hess, who's been through it, and has been through the ringer, learned these mistakes, made the mistakes, learn from them. Which one's going to teach you better? It's obvious. So, so I think that's why, the podcast you have, and the ones we're seeing now, become even more valuable now that the other ones basically become a commodity.
Hmm. Yeah, where do we go from here? What would you be your, all right, the listener is interested in integrating AI in their business.
Yep.
Step one, two, three.
Yeah. So the first and foremost, and this is with anything, whether it's AI or anything else, sit down and put together where you're spending your time, where, your the 80/20 rule, where, 20% of your time is getting 80% of the results. So figure out what that other 80% is, and how much you can outsource to an AI system or any kind of technology. It doesn't have to be an AI system. Everyone's throwing AI in their technology now. Um, so don't let that, just that word get there, but now figure out the technologies that are out there and available. Obviously that's where someone like me, where, I'm aware of that. It's surprising me when I talk about Notebook LM. I said, hey, anybody hear of this? Raise your hands. And there's a whole room full of people, and they're all looking at me like, what are you talking about? By the time I explained it, half the room's like, oh, I go check that out. So that's why, somebody like me who's, going to be there and looking at this stuff all the time and figuring those things out can help you with that path of understanding, don't use that technology, use this one, or figure those things out. And then the next thing we do is go through an AI audit, so I have a whole thing put together where someone's going to come in, answer questions, how they want to use it. Are they using it now? What are they doing? Because there can be some real big compliance issues because of it. There could be some big cybersecurity issues from it. So then we look at, just depending on the size of the company, how they're using it. You might want to get, there's a NIST has a framework. High Trust has an AI hub. All these things around compliance. ISO, if you're familiar with the ISO standards, they have a 42001. So if you have a system that has AI integrated into it, you're gonna want those things, or maybe you want to go and have a pen test, or some of the things on the cybersecurity. So there's proactive and reactive. You want to be a lot more proactive in setting it up. I know a lot of, especially bigger companies, are just shutting everything down. Employees can't access ChatGPT. They can't access the APIs of Claude. They can't access any of this stuff. And then they'll put together, an AI panel that will discuss it and say, okay, what are we doing? How do we want to use it? And as they decide that, then they'll open things up. Okay, now you can access this, but do it. So, for a smaller company, do you have to get to that level? I don't think so, but you at least have to be aware, and you
They're
have to ask.
shutting it down because the data is being shared.
Right. They don't want, they don't
Oh,
want
that's
the
interesting.
being
Yeah.
shared. They don't want the implication, the opens up to cyber attacks, opens up to other things that, could cause issues. So they want to make sure
Wow.
they're taking care of all those things. Yeah.
If you're gonna theme it, put a theme to this conversation, what would you for our audience?
Oh, theme for this conversation is, do not, do not abdicate your success to others. How's that one? So we talked about abdication. We talked about that, and or again from a system standpoint, from everything else, don't delegate. You're going to delegate, to your technology. You're going to delegate to AI. So don't abdicate it. Don't think it's going to be the thing that does it all for you and replaces it. Think of it as something you have to delegate to. You have to work with it. You have to put the ground rules in place and figure those things out, in doing that. So,
Do you think people can be successful in 10 years with all
oh,
this
absolutely.
technology?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. All the technology does is gives us, different and sometimes better options, than what we have now. So, if you go back and look at, Philadelphia back when there was all those horses and horse drawn, carriages, and there was, people had to deal with. That's why all the brownstones in the city of Philadelphia have the stairs going up to them, because they didn't want the poop piling all the way up to the houses. So people going around picking up crap all the time. With the invention of the car and all those other things, that went away. And thankfully those jobs went away, because I don't think those people loved it. But
Mhm.
new opportunities came out of it, and new things, were there for people to do that. So
Thanks for coming back, brother. If you're listening
absolutely,
to
man.
this episode, check out season 27, episode 313. Very different conversation. Please leave us a
Just
review on
look
the
at both of us and how much different we look too.
Oh yeah, yeah, on the YouTube, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast, and we will see you next time. Thank you, my friend.
thank you, Jay.